February 16th, week 6 stand-up slash milestone review slash sprint planning meeting for Trident. This is the spring semester 2018. So what we'll be doing in addition to just talking about what we worked on is outlining what the goals for this next 3 weeks are going to be. All of those should be pretty straightforward. It's a lot of just continuing to work on what we're working on and making things better. I spent this week, I've been working on some other narrative stuff. I'm really trying to, I want that to be at the final pass so that I'm not sending you guys a draft of a narrative bit. So I'm working over that multiple times, and I'm thinking that once I get that out, depending on reactions, if everybody loves it, then that's kind of given us another step towards solidifying, I guess you could say, the setting. If not everybody loves it, then that gives me, I can start addressing what things are not working. Since we've got a pretty, I mean, besides the fact that we're all here at UAT and let's, like games, I think we're a pretty diverse group when it comes to tastes, at least from what little I know about each of you. So we should have a pretty good, if everybody's loving it, then it should be good. And then I went through last night after Emmanuel and Frank did your edits to the player guides, and I did some reworks as well. Made some last minute adjustments to rules. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that is really major, but there were just some things that when I was going through the documents I realized, oh, we changed how this system works, so this subsequent system also needs to be changed. And that's what we'll be playtesting with today. So Emmanuel, Frank, and myself will be running through whatever group of students we get through the game, try and get as many combats as we can done. Try and probably get, I would like 5 to 6, but that depends on how quickly they pick it up, and also the game should be easier to explain now because of the changes we've made, and also combat should probably go quicker because the Leviathan won't be as ridiculously overpowered compared to the players. Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah. This past week I got the swipe feature working with the dice roller, so now when you swipe a certain direction, the dice will go in that direction you swipe it in. I've got the basics of them knowing what side they land on, so if I think it was a 4 and above, it'll count as a success. And then it shows you how many successes you got when they're all done. And oh yeah, if the dice are cocked, they automatically re-roll themselves now. And I also messed around with a free haptic feedback thing I found on Unity. It's very basic. It basically only allows you to set the length of the vibration and not the intensity. So if we want to give the player a little Morse code signal, we could do that, but nothing more. And yeah, that's been pretty much it.
I was going through the equipment list in books and some of my own books to create new equipment and adjust the data for the equipment that's already there. Some stuff I made a little smaller, some stuff I made a little bigger, and I got it all in a nice pretty Excel spreadsheet, so we can break it down, and also I'd like to see if we can put some of the stuff, you can't get this stuff until it's a Mark 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. But yeah, I worked on that quite a bit this week, so.
I'm Shelby, I'm the lead artist. I was working on a whole bunch of thumbnail sketches, and I scrapped them all because I did not like how they were looking. But I've started getting more of a crab feel, for a lot of how the body shapes are going to be with the plates on them and everything like that. That way they're not looking like they're bodybuilders. They're also not looking like they're blobs. So they do have some definition to them, but they also are protected. And it makes sense if they're coming from water and situations like that. And kind of makes them more diverse because crabs are kind of weird looking. So, I plan on working on that and getting some T-poses done for John to use, and helping James out with hands. He's having issues. So, yeah.
I'm James. I've been doing art. I'm going to be doing art. Not really much else to explain.
What art are you doing?
The Trident's art. I'm just going to continue doing iterations of those.
Alright, I'm Manny, I'm the designer. I've been working on changing some of the Leviathan abilities, like what they do. I also was moving some of the like stronger abilities to where you can't get them until you're, or it's least likely chance to get them whenever you're lower leveled. We also took out the class 6 Leviathan entirely because that was just really strong. And we changed the numbers for the stats of the Leviathans for class 4 and 5. So we just made those smaller so they weren't too much bigger than the Tridents.
Okay, John?
John Mix, up for the artist on St. Trident. Been working with Miles and giving feedback on the 3D modeling I've been doing. What I've been working on past week is getting the view out of the viewport window, statewide, more detailed. I have posted more to the Google Drive in the lines of that. Y'all still hear me? The video froze.
We can hear you.
All right. Just continue working on that, getting that better and more defined.
Okay.
Okay, I'm Michael Shepard. I've been working on, as of late, I've been working on the save system. I have everything done with that, or I had everything done with that. I'm starting to slow down getting everything implemented in PlayFab because I have to learn about it. So right now I'm trying to implement a game manager for PlayFab so that way we can get saves. So these saves will be able to save non-locally and we'll have better infrastructure on the back end.
Okay. With that, if you use Cloud Script, that can solve a lot of your issues.
Okay.
That's what we did in Calculord. Do you prefer Emmanuel or Manny?
I go by either.
Okay.
I don't care.
Okay, I've been calling you Emmanuel this time. I'd hate to realize that you much prefer Manny. Something you said that I was going to springboard off of, I can't think of it now. Daniel's been working on the UI stuff. I'm going to be sending him some feedback and we're going to be making updates to that, and then probably have him start connecting what Michael and Zach are working in, get that out so we have one cohesive build for our digital stuff. As far as this next sprint is concerned, things I'd like to see, rules-wise, after this playtest, we'll have to do a little bit of refinement on our changes to combat and our changes to Leviathan and Trident generation. I think that's going to be, we're going to have a little more work as far as that's concerned, just again, continuing to rework the abilities and equipment the Trident and Leviathans get. But I want to move on from that, because I think we should be pretty solid with the conventional units as they stand, into more combat options. Right now we've got, you hit them with your ranged weapon, you hit them with your close weapon. You sometimes try to hold or throw them, and the amount of dynamics that two Tridents can have working against a single Leviathan it's very sparse. There's not a whole lot you can do. You can pretty much hold and flank, and that's it. And I think giving the players more options as far as working with another Trident is going to be very important to making them work like a team, and benefiting them, and I forget the word I'm looking for, but basically, give them bonuses for working as a team, to make them want to do that. There's a single term that would wrap all that up in a single word, but I can't think of it right now.
Coordinate?
No, reward. I couldn't think of the word reward. We want to reward the players for working as a team, as opposed to right now there's not a whole lot that you're getting. We can also adjust how the experience is calculated for assists and things like that. We don't want to get that too complicated because we don't want you to have to track 15 things that you did during combat to know how much experience you get. But once you've got that kind of wrapped up, I think that finishes out our major rules changes. I mean, as it currently sits, the way the phases for building, repairing, getting a new combat encounter going out is all, it doesn't really need any changes. So I'd like to see all that combat stuff done, and if we can start working on the first iteration of the new, I guess you call it initiative system, but basically splitting that advancement between pilots going up in quality and then having the AI have their own advancement system. I think that would wrap up all the rules changes we'd need, and we'd be at version 1 for the rules, which we could then just start doing nothing but playtesting with the rules. And then then we can move to working more on, instead of the rules side of the document, working on the art side of the document, getting the art in there, starting to worry about form and layout. Presentation's a key point of design. So I'd like to have assets to start doing that with, which you guys are well on your way to doing. That's both, just illustrations, and then also you have your graphic design background, so I think starting to get an idea of different visual pieces, so we can, block out examples, block out when we're talking directly to the player, block out any sort of like lore thing we might have, ways to separate information, and also to make the Trident guide and the Leviathan guide visually distinct, so that if we ultimately have them in one book, you open it up and you know exactly what you're reading, because we don't want players to read the wrong section.
I have a question. So for like what's can go in the guidebook, can they do you want full on illustrations where it's shaded, colored backgrounds and everything, or can there also be sketches, concept, thumbnails?
We've not even looked at what we want to do for that.
Okay.
So
we'll figure that one
we
out.
have the entire breadth of what we
Okay.
could do.
Sounds good.
We just need to actually sit down, and that's something that I also want to do during the spring, start getting ideas and a plan for how we're ultimately going to want the document to look, because that gives you guys direction on, do you need 5 full illustrations, you just need the one, and then we've got bits and pieces for the others. And then again, programming wise, being able to make the final decision on whether or not we need to buy the haptics. And then also, in addition to the swipe control, having the flick, I shake the phone and the dice roll.
Okay.
For the roller, I think, and then that wraps up the roller.
Pretty much, yeah.
Which, moving on from the roller, and because the save systems I think are going to take you the entire sprint to really get down solid, and just because again you haven't worked with PlayFab before, so you have to spend the entire time learning it, and then also making sure that everything works.
Yeah.
You've got a big beast right there that it might take you the next 2 milestones to get through.
It's bigger than I expected, but that's okay.
Yeah, well, and once you figure out all that stuff with PlayFab, that also, the PlayFab integration solves leaderboards, solves achievements,
Yeah.
solves economy, or being able to have an economy, being able to do anything like that. But that does form the backbone. But with all that, that means that for next semester, we have a much better base to start working on the digital version than I expected to get out of this semester. And tying that in with the UI that Daniel's working on, at the end of this milestone, I'd like to have that all put together so we can, at the very least, if it's just we navigate to the dice roll and then back out, we navigate to a single, box that has a couple of different colored capsules to represent equipment on it saved out. I'm fine with that level, but just having that in an environment that we can actually show off, and especially with the dice roller, start playtesting and start getting people's hands on it. I think those are kind of, from where I'm sitting, the major goals. If anybody has anything they're thinking of that we need to be handling at this stage in the process as opposed to later, feel free to tell me I'm wrong and we need to focus on something else. But yeah, with those kind of goals in mind, kind of defining the dice roller done is when it's got that flick movement, and we have an answer on haptics, not necessarily haptics being in, with the save system and the PlayFab integration is going to be it's such a weird definition of done because so many smaller parts can be done. We're just going to have to evaluate that as we go. The UI stuff, if I can sit down, or if Manny or Frank can sit down and build, a main menu, no problem. Then that all stuff is done. And then at that point, we're just working with John to get the 3D assets for that main menu in. As far as art being done, that's another conversation we're gonna have outlining what we want the visuals of the books to look like. So that's not something we can really answer right now. And then I kind of, when I was talking about the rules, already talked about what done for the rules is gonna look like. Does anybody think that that is a workload that we cannot handle with our current capacity? I like that. So we should be able to get all that wrapped up. And if we do, then we'll be much further along than I expected to be in the semester, which would be great. Art is going to be slow just because it's art. And we have 2 artists, not 3 designers, and an already created rule book to work from. So you guys are you're going to be the last things that we work on as far as the rule book's concerned, but that's also because it's the most time-consuming thing on the project. But I think that wraps up for what we're going to be planning on doing for this next sprint, what we've done in this current sprint. Yeah, that's pretty much everything.